Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. We've made it. The week one rankings are in. We're talking about them. We are going to debate them on this show. Thank you for joining us live. If you're here, smash the like button to the episode. And after the show, in the comment section, you tell us, you tell Jake and I, maybe even Ian as well, who is the worst ranked player in Ian's rankings this week. Ian, we're putting you right to the test early.
Hey, it's a great day to be great, though, Pat. Week one, man, 6 straight months of talking about what we were going to do, and now it's time to let all those dominoes fall. And as we were saying before the show, guys, this is all that matters. I don't want to hear about weeks 2 through 17. If what you said this entire offseason isn't proven correct in week one, you are a fraud.
Jake, are you a fraud?
100%. I'm a fraud.
Well, we'll see if Ian is. When do your rankings come out during the week? They're going to come out on Tuesday at midnight at theathletic.com?
Yes, correct. So, or 12:01 a.m. Wednesday. If like people, it's so weird to say midnight. Like people are like midnight Tuesday. Was that Tuesday night or Tuesday morning midnight? So 12:01 Wednesday. How about that?
All right, and the link is down in the description if you want to get all Jake's rankings and content. Ditto for Ian at Fantasy Life, and you got a code as well, right, Ian?
Code Ian 20% off. We're going to be out there midday Mondays, and then Jake can copy all the stuff he likes about mine and then change what he finds wrong. You know how it goes.
Dude, that's the move. That's exactly what you need to be doing right now. Share the show around. I just put it out on X. And if you want to get $250 in your pocket, straight cash, you can get into a draw very easily by subscribing to Mayo Media Network. Boom. That was easy enough. You're in the draw now. Additionally, you can get more ballots in the draw by subscribing on Apple and Spotify, but you can do them both. Leaving a 5-star review, and boom, you get into that one as well. And Jake, you're going to be reposting this on your feed. So if people are listening on Jake's feed, tell everyone where they can do that as well for your fantasy football podcast.
Like subscribe, you mean?
Yeah. Where do they subscribe? What's it called?
Well, I was confused because you said like if they're already listening on my podcast, wouldn't they like already be listening and subscribe? Anyway, it's all in Speedrun on Apple, Spotify. It's on YouTube, all the other ones. But yeah, that's all in Speedrun. So, but you confused me because they're already listening on my podcast. So that's why I was like, wait, they're already there.
I'm getting to that point. I get that I worded it probably incorrectly. I was going to say, if you do that for Jake's podcast as well, you will still be in the draw. So it gives you 4 opportunities to get ballots in the draw. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to make people aware that you also had a podcast where this will be simulcasted on throughout the season.
Very much appreciate it. Yes, you'll be able to listen to it all season long.
Okay, no problem. But here's what we need to do. I'm running a survivor pool, and it has massive overlay. There is 8,000 spots still remaining. There's $500,000 guaranteed. It's on Splash Sports right now. If you hit the description or the comment section of this video or podcast, you can get the direct link. Please go fill that out. It's $50 per entry. You can enter up to 150 times, but just get one of them in there. We need to fill this thing up, Jake.
I bought one for Nicole, and she's like, what do I have to do? I was like, pick an NFL team you think is going to win, but you can never pick them again. She went with Arizona. Heads up for everybody.
Okay. Ian, I did want to run one, because this is one of the survivors where it doesn't actually lock until 1 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So if you take the Eagles, Cowboys, Chiefs, or Chargers in the first 2 games and you get it wrong, you can rebuy back in if you want to, if there's still spots remaining. So what do you think that the strategy is for that, Ian? I was thinking I'm just going to load up on Philly. If they lose, then like no big deal. I'll go re-up. Or is the move to have like 10 teams, take 5 Dallas, 5 Philly, and if Dallas wins, you're off to the races?
I think that's a loser's mindset. Winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. I got the Broncos in week 1. I think Cam Ward's going to have a pretty disastrous debut. I'm not worried about all that nonsense, Pat.
All right, see, I like it. So Ian's rankings are out right now. We're going to get to them. They are the running back rankings for week 1, half point PPR, and they go as follows. Saquon Barkley in that opening game is number 1. Bijan, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Gibbs, Ashton Genty, who Cust hates this year, so you probably should have ranked him at number 1, apparently. Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, James Conner. That goes into Devon Achane, Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Tony Pollard at 18, Omarion, and then Trevion Henderson at number 20. Jake, your first impressions of these running back rankings. Where did Ian go wrong?
Nowhere, because I'm just going to take him and put him in my ranks, like he said. No, my biggest issue, and it's not a huge one, but I don't. Why does everybody hate Kyren Williams? Like, what's wrong with Kyren Williams? The fact that like he's been RB6 each of the past 2 years. The only fear we had was that Sean McVay might get tired of him at some point, turn away from him, and turn to the rookie and Hunter, or go back to Blake Corum from last year. But he got his contract, so he's not going anywhere. And every single week, Kyren Williams gets 20 touches, and every single week he produces. And it's a matchup where you should say they should be able to control this game somewhat. I will say the Texans' defense is underrated by a lot of people because of perception. But at the same time, I just don't know how Kyren Williams is this low. I see the names in front of him, but I get the upside of Achane, but I guess that really comes down to, do you feel safer? You usually don't have to. You and I talk about this every year. Ian, you're new to this, of course, but like, who's got somebody to bench inside of his top 10 for Kyren Williams? So it's more of like nitpicking that it's Kyren versus like these names. Nobody's making that decision, but at the same time, I just feel like he should be higher.
So to piggyback on and really force this down your throat, Ian, about Kyren Williams, because of the massive amount of pressure expected to be generated by the Texans' defensive line, probably one of the top 5 units in football. Good offensive line, we'll see, and now that they're healthy for the Rams. But just with Stafford's back, I can see them leaning on the running game more. Now you can say more carries for Kyren, good news, or more carries for Kyren, the Texans know it's coming, and then they can stuff him that way. So I guess it's a double-edged sword when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, the way I looked at it, I hear it did feel weird to have him that low. But again, you guys said it, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, this is a nasty front seven. And there's a reason why in drafts that we see the Texans DST go higher than pretty much everyone else. So even last year, as much as they were, a better pass defense, obviously got Stingley in the back end as well. Still the 6th best unit in terms of EPA allowed per rush. So for me, it was just kind of that perfect storm where we have Kyren in the tough matchup. And then Alvin Kamara gets the Cardinals. We have James Conner getting the Saints. We have, again, Jonathan Taylor getting the Dolphins. Just situations where, yeah, maybe in a future week I can see myself putting Kyren ahead of them, but just enough of a matchup tiebreaker for me to have him at RB14. So I admit it feels low. I'm also with Jake, where I would still imagine 99.9% of you are going to be starting Kyren Williams anyway. But yeah, man, I will say there's a little bit of concern that maybe some of this off-season coach speak comes to fruition. I tend to be on Jake's side overall, right? You paid Kyren. We've seen Sean McVay lean on one running back more than just about anyone over the years. It should be the Kyren Williams show. He had nearly 400 touches last year after they talked up Blake Corum, but we did get OC Mike LaFleur saying, a couple weeks ago that they do want to try and make things a little bit more even. So, Jake, I have a little segment I'm doing on the Fantasy Live show where it's like fantasy football genie. If you could look into the future and just ask 1 or 2 workload questions, what would we want to know after week 1? I do think Blake Corum's usage is one of those genie questions I would want to have because, again, Kyren, whether he's going to be RB5 or RB15 the rest of the year, like you're going to be, we know he's the RB1, but if Blake Corum is the clear number 2, like it looks like he might be ahead of Jarquez Hunter, that's one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football.
I can see that. There's one other name I did want to push back on here, and it seems kind of crazy to think about due to the Packers' injuries already, both in the backfield and a couple other guys already hobbled up in the receiving core. But Detroit has been especially good against running backs, Ian. Do you worry about that at all with Josh Jacobs, or is that just volume over anything?
That's why I have him RB13. So I'm with you. Him and Kyren basically kind of in that same sort of tier where there's enough concern with that defense. Healthy, hopefully 100% Aiden Hutchinson there for Detroit, where it could be a little bit problematic. So we forget, maybe we don't forget, but man, the amount of IR injuries that the Lions have by like the halfway point last year, maybe losing Aaron Glenn does matter a little bit more than we're anticipating. But that was a really strong defense during the first month or 2 of last season. So again, volume should win out. They're still in the top 15 because of that. I'm not tanking them down to the low end RB2 depths or anything, but I do think Jacobs and Kyren fantasy managers, maybe again, you're getting the 9 or 10 points in week 1 instead of the 20-point booms.
Why don't you like Achane, Jake? Is it because we don't? So the status on him right now is that he's expected to return to practice and play. So if he's playing, like he's going in for me as like a top 5 option.
Yeah, it's just we're talking Tuesday, and this has been, a question about the calf, and it's a soft tissue, and let's just see the practice reports for the entire week. I'm just saying the point about Achane was the safer floor is Kyren. Achane limited the entire week, and then all of a sudden, surprisingly, only gets 8 touches. I'm just saying that's my only concern. But again, we're talking Tuesday. If he's full practice starting tomorrow, obviously it's Achane top 10 locked in. The Jacobs thing, I'm not too concerned about. You were talking about last year. I know that the one game he didn't even catch a pass, but that was his 3 touchdown game against the Lions, and then the other one. To your guy's point, I think he had kind of a rough rushing day, or maybe it was a limited rushing day, but he was actually really good on a per carry basis, whatever it might be. It was 2 of his lower volume games against the Lions, but he did have an okay game and then the 3 touchdowns. That's the thing with Jacobs. This is where you have him. We're week 1. Everybody's at our disposal. We just finished drafting. We would have him higher inside the top 10 with buys than on most weeks, but we're kind of nitpicking here, and that's why he's there.
I can get behind that. There's actually a fantasy prop for him on Underdog in week 1. I'm trying to really get into the nitty gritty of this. If you use code Mayo at Underdog right now, you will get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000, a free pick for Barkley. You know, if he gets higher than half a rushing yard, you win on Thursday Night Football. And if you play a $5 pick'em entry, you'll get an automatic $50 in your account. So it's a triple bonus. So use code Mayo at Underdog. But Jake, the overall receiving number for Achane for week 1 is 34.5 receiving yards. However, if I were to ask you what his first quarter receiving over under is, what would you guess?
8.5.
Ian?
8.5 sounds right. I'm going to go 6.5.
3.5.
Ooh,
really?
Yeah.
One design screen, and we're there.
Yeah. Like, it's just, you have to hope that the Colts don't get the ball first and run 47 plays or something.
It's Daniel Jones, guaranteed not to happen.
That's
I like
a
that
really
because
good point.
you think about how these teams usually have their first 10 or 15 or so plays scripted. There's for sure going to be at least one design throw to Achane there. Good pull, Pat.
It is, and with that D line coming at you, no offensive line in Miami. Like, it's just going to be quick. It's just going to be. I mean, you could even look at it. Maybe they'll catch someone sleeping, or maybe there's a yak situation, but like under longest reception for Waddle and Hill and all of these guys. I mean, it's terrifying to do it with those guys, only because you know that they can make one guy miss and go the entire length of the field. I just don't think that Miami's going to have any time to throw the ball anywhere past 20 yards.
That's why the JOHNNIE decision to trade him, maybe it was just a situation where they were so just not in the same page that they had to trade him at that point. But he was that complimentary yak option to Achane. That's what they had to do the entire second half of last season. You know, excuse me for doubting 33-year-old Darren Waller's willingness to go try to earn some gritty yards after contact in the year 2025.
No, see, he's had like 5 years off. He's going to be fine.
It's wrapping his career away.
Want to let everyone know that if you go to 4for4.com/Mayo, you can get 25% off all packages. There's the fantasy packages, which involves the league sync. There's projections. There's the DFS package. That's a little bit more in the betting package. And then there's the Sharp Stack Act, which I think everyone should get in on. It has a pick'em tab and a sportsbook tab. If you're playing props this year, there's also spreads and totals, which, depending on your state, may be available to you on Underdog as of today with some new announcement. You should check online for that one. But if you go 4for4.com/Mayo, you can get 25% off. And the Sharp Stack app is 7-day trial as well when you sign up. So you can cancel after the 7 days if you don't like it. Highly recommend that you go do it if you're going to be playing on Underdog, any of the pick'em sites, or betting on sportsbooks this year. It's just a calculator. If you like playing the ARB game, there's already guaranteed money on the site for you to go do it. And code Mayo gets you 25% off. If Achane sits, Ian, how high would Ollie Gordon go?
Oh my God. Especially, I mean, again, it is amazing. Someone who pounded the table for Jalen Wright all off season long. Gordon very well could have taken the job. I saw a difference in preseason performance, but again, right lower body injury. Seems like he's going to be out this month. Alexander Madison, who allegedly was having a good training camp, neck injury, he's out for the season. I mean, they did re-sign Jeff Wilson. They brought in one other running back here, so it's not going to be a 100% snap Ollie Gordon situation. But man, guys, I mean, Tony Pollard's RB18. He's going to have a ton of volume. I'm mostly just concerned about that Broncos matchup. You can make an argument if you wanted to slide in Gordon ahead of Pollard, ahead of some of these rookies like Hampton and Henderson, who are a little bit wary of the split backfield. That would be about as high as I wanted to go. I think maybe something closer to that RB2 borderline with DeAndre Swift and Pacheco is where the consensus would be. But I would say top 20 if you're really feeling some type of way with Ollie Gordon sans Devon Achane.
Jake, where would you have him?
I was going to bring that up for the fact that I didn't see him, but I'm assuming you don't have Najee Harris. Oh, you do have. He's way down. That's why. So that comes down to is if there's no Najee Harris, because there's still speculation whether or not he'll play this week. I would still go Hampton before I went with Ollie Gordon, just because
Hampton would be up a lot with no.
Najee. Yeah, that's what I figured for Ian. So that's where, like, as of now, I'm kind of with him on that. Like, he's kind of a toss-up with Hampton with Najee Harris on the field. So I can see the argument. The only one that I would kind of maybe consider differently is, like I said, if you want to Tony Pollard because you know what you're going to get and you know he's going to get all that volume, it's a bad matchup. Another bad matchup you have there that I was looking at too is go back to Hampton, the Chiefs' run defense. They kind of stifled everybody last year. So if you want to make the argument, I have no problem with Gordon being that high. He'd be right in that mix.
So if Najee was out, Jake, how Ian would obviously boost him up a bit. How high do you think that he would go for you, just based on Ian's rankings?
I wouldn't go past Chuba against Jacksonville because I would jump Kenneth Walker because of the split that he hasn't been on the field, and we're just assuming. Like I gave you guys the report a couple of weeks ago that they want to use him as a bell cow. You have to be on the field to be a bell cow. So I don't know, does he get an entire work the first week? So I would actually move him up, but I'd probably stop at Hubbard just because of the matchup.
Okay. Where would you say your circle of trust is here, Ian? That these guys, when we get to a certain point of the rankings, you're finding a way to start them regardless. Kind of like what Jake said earlier, that if you have these guys, you're playing them before you get into real decision making. Because for me, looking at your rankings, I think that there's a line between Hubbard and Walker that the top 15 are the top 15. You play those guys, figure out whatever order you want to put them in, and then the real debate begins after that.
I think that's it. And it feels weird not having James Cook in, the circle of trust. We'll just make his little dot, just outside of it. But again, it comes down to that Ravens matchup. But at the same time of things, if the Bills are going to be scoring 35 points in the Sunday Night Football shootout, wouldn't be shocking me if James Cook finds his way in there. So probably right after Chuba. Again, there's just enough of a matchup or usage concern with everyone else where if you are deciding between one of those RBs versus, a stud top 15, even top 20 wide receiver, I can see how you would go the other way.
Jake, similar to you?
Oh, 100%. I would stop at Hubbard because the Kenneth Walker backfield mix, James Cook, bad matchup, and touchdown reliant, and then you just go down from there. So it would be 15 would be my cutoff.
So Pollard's a really interesting one to me at number 18 in your ranks, Ian, that he's going to be the bell cow, but he's playing Denver. What do you know about Cam Ward's willingness to check down to his running backs?
Not very. I mean, this is a dude who, again, couldn't be cooler in the pocket. It was actually kind of hilarious, some of his reps at Miami, the way he would just stand there flat-footed and almost nonchalantly flip the ball out when he did have to finally get it out. So, again, saw a little bit of that in the preseason. He moves around, I would say, in a manner where he at least got away with it more often than not in college. We'll see what that looks like now against the Denver Broncos, at Mile High and everything. But I will just say, I mean, this isn't exactly a situation where Tony Pollard, we're like, oh, my gosh, he finally has a full-time workload. Let's face it, Tajay Spears was banged up all of last year as well. And what did Pollard end up giving us? More of low-end RB2 numbers. So there are, again, smart offensive line people in our industry, specifically Brandon Thorne at Establish the Run, who have this new and improved Titans unit as, I believe, a top 12 unit. So I would say, in future matchups, not against the Broncos, okay, I can get behind Pollard moving up quite a bit. And I could see him even getting the James Conner, Alvin Kamara treatment up into the top 12 in the right matchup. But again, guys, you don't have to take my word for it. If you go ahead and look at the implied, team totals for this week, nobody's expecting to score fewer points than the Tennessee Titans. So just a situation where the Titans, at least for week one, really could be the worst offense in the NFL. So even if Pollard is going to be getting 20 plus touches, hard for me to put him too high up in the ranks while everyone is healthy. And I think that's the point you or Jake already brought up, man. We're not going to see a cleaner week of RB health than we have right now going into week one. So I know it feels weird to have someone like Tony Pollard, Hampton, and Henderson outside the top 15, the way we've kind of been drafting them and expecting the early parts of the season to go. But again, just for now, enough matchup concern for me to still knock Pollard down a bit.
And that's the one thing, just to jump in, Pat, is Tony Pollard last year, and they didn't have a lot of wins, so bringing up a lot of losses when I say this, but he had 2 more games of single-digit performances under 7 points than he did double-digit scores in losses. So...
yeah, that doesn't seem very good. And in this going to be a game where, they're the biggest underdog of the week. They're 8-point dogs on the road in Denver, that if he's not catching passes to make up for this, full point PPR, that would be one thing. We're talking about half point PPR, so it's not even as meaningful in that sense. At least we know Kamara is going to get, theoretically, some of these catches. With Pollard, I would have him below Tracy, I would have him below Pacheco, Swift, Montgomery, Henderson, Hampton. I'd probably have him at like 25, 26, Ian.
Look, we got the usage last year. There were 6 games with Spears completely sidelined or played under 20%, got hurt really early, okay? And in those 6 games, Pollard played, worst case, 73% snaps, best case, 94% snaps. 3 of those games, he did finish RB20 or worse. 3 of the games, he was RB14 or better. So, again, when you are getting 20-plus touches, or at least we have a pretty good guarantee of that, I kind of do have to draw that line somewhere in the ranks of some of the guys you were bringing up, Monty, Swift, Pacheco. I do have concerns that they're going to be able to vie for those 20-plus touches. I am curious on what happens with some of these Bears running backs. Again, we're recording this on Tuesday, so we don't have the injury and practice reports yet. Bears one's obviously on Monday night. We're not going to get those until this weekend. But Roschon Johnson and Kyle Monangai have been missing practice throughout August. I know Roschon, I think, had a foot issue. Monangai has been undisclosed. So if we do see a situation, guys, where both of those Bears backups are banged up going to Monday Night Football, DeAndre Swift would be a major riser for me, because at that point, I mean, we've been wondering all offseason long, like, who's going to be the running back to take DeAndre Swift's place. But more and more going into week 1, it's seeming like DeAndre Swift's going to be the bell cow there in Chicago.
I would tend to agree, Jake. I like DeAndre Swift as a start here. Not a great start, but as a low-end running back, too, for sure. And I do like him more than Pollard.
I can see the liking him more than Pollard. I think he's got the higher ceiling. He's got the lower floor. And I think that's what it comes down to. Even with this matchup, I think he has the lower floor, just because it's a lot of what we sat here and said was Ben Johnson going to do with this backfield. They didn't address it much outside of a day 3 pick, a late day 3 pick in Monangai. So sure, it looks like it, but at the same time, even when DeAndre Swift was the guy with the one overlap with Ben Johnson, because remember, there's different coordinators and stuff like the time before that, is that he wasn't even somebody that still was 20 touches per game. He has to be in that kind of Alvin Kamara world, and he doesn't catch as many balls as Kamara, so you still have this kind of risky situation with Swift. If you want to play Swift, I'm not going to argue back much. The one that you were going to bring up, because we haven't gotten that far in his rankings yet, is I was going to bring up Pacheco. Like, I have Pacheco higher. Maybe I'm going to die with him in week 1, but the biggest thing, we talked about it a few weeks ago on the ranking show with the running backs and the preseason rankings. And I said that is like, it came from Pat Fitzmaurice. I'm not the one who said it, but credit to him, is that if we never saw him last year, we'd be ranking Pacheco higher just because we would assume he's 100% now, but we saw how bad it was last season. But now we have seen him in the preseason, and he looks fine. And he looks like, similar to Deebo Samuel, it looks like his burst is back. So you tell me, yeah, he's not going to catch a lot of balls, but that's not Pacheco's game. But he plays for the Chiefs. He plays in a matchup where I think everything should be fine scoring-wise. I don't think the Chargers are going to destroy the Chiefs by any stretch of the imagination. I would trust Pacheco over the Tony Pollard situation.
I think that's where I would do it right now. I see Pollard at 18. If these were my ranks, I would bump him down to number 26 between RJ Harvey and Tyrone Tracy is where I would feel comfortable with it. What's that?
I said, that's really far. Like, I'm kind of in between you guys. I would drop down Pollard. The big one is I would play Pacheco over him. But I don't know if I would go all the way down to 26. It's still Tracy and the Giants offense. And I know Scadaboo hasn't been out there until recently, but still at the same time, I don't trust the Giants to do much. It's Russell Wilson. They're probably just trying to get 14 points and be happy with it.
That's probably the case, Ian. It's funny because I actually like the Giants to hit their over of 5.5 wins so far. We went through that in the NFC win total show. However, I like them to get smoked by Washington week 1. Everyone you know is on the Giants this week.
Yeah, man, it is a situation where I think that Giants D-line is going to be feisty enough to maybe keep, games that look like potential blowouts close, but I just don't see their offense getting a ton going here. But it is funny with Pacheco. That's another one of, again, these kind of, fantasy football genie questions I had written down. Like, again, will Blake Corum have a legit role or at least be the clear-cut number 2? And then what's going to be with Isaiah Pacheco? Is he going to be that workhorse? Because that's why he was going more so as this borderline RB2, even sometimes a higher-end RB3 throughout drafts, is that uncertainty. Yes, the first 2 weeks were awesome last year, but by the time he came back, old friend Kareem Hunt, who I know we like to say is washed and everything, but let's face it, big history there in Kansas City. He was back siphoning away that early down work, and that was something we did even see in week 3 of the preseason with the starters. So again, if Pacheco is ceding some early down work to Kareem Hunt, and then we have rookie Brashard Smith coming in for a package of plays as a gadget, maybe even stealing some of the pass down targets, which Jake mentioned. Pacheco already not exactly dominating in the first place. I could see Pacheco being a bit more of an an RB3, or he does get the lion's share of the workload, and we're looking at him next week as a top 15 RB. So that one definitely volatile. I see the case for moving him up. Right now, I'm kind of middling it out at RB24. The other question I had, guys, for the fantasy football genie, who's the RB1 in Jacksonville? Because that's the only reason why ETN, Bigsby, and Tootin have been so cheap. I think we're going to be sitting here next week looking at whoever ended up, leading the way in a good matchup against the Panthers as well, and saying, my God, I mean, could ETN, Bigsby, God forbid even Tootin, be a legit top 20 back as early as week 2? I think it's possible.
I think the better question for the genie is not who's the lead, but what's the outcome of the game. Because if it's competitive, aggressive, even catch up, ETN, because I'm bringing in the half and full point PPR. He's clearly the pass catching option. If they somehow run away with this game, I lean toward Bigsby. If we're talking week 6, then I would say let's get Tootin involved, but I just don't think Tootin's going to be the one until a couple weeks into the season. You have to be patient if you drafted him, unless you're forced to make a cut. I know we're talking ranks here, but unless you're forced, understand. Similar if you took Judkins today, like Judkins, even if he signs, he's going to take a few weeks. Don't take Judkins, don't take Tootin, don't take those guys if you're just going to turn around and cut him in week 3. So I'd be patient on Tootin, but I would say ETN, if it's going to be a back and forth type of game or even catch up. Bigsby, if they jump out to an early lead, maybe some turnovers, and all of a sudden they're up 14-0, then I think he would be the option. But that's the question I would ask is, what's the game going to be?
In Ian's rankings, ETN is the highest at number 35. Clayton Bigsby, comes in at number 39. Then King Tootin, smelling up a joint down there in number 47. So
I think that's fair.
I wouldn't want to start any of these guys, honestly. Like Ian, you have Eckler at 36, Dylon Sampson at 37. I'd probably start both those guys ahead of ETN just to. It's not that I'm certain that those guys are going to do anything, but I'd rather take my chance. There's fewer people in those backfields to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, if we get 20 running back carries for the Jaguars here this week, who's to say it's not going to be 10, 5, and 5 with Bigsby leading the way? So I hear you. I do think Tootin is probably going to be the distant third, but we'll see what happens, man. Obviously, Liam Cohen was running a big-time committee in Tampa Bay. That one was more condensed around Rachaad White and Bucky. Sean Tucker was really a non-factor, but just the way they've been talking about these guys and the reality that ETN and Bigsby obviously don't have a ton of just, I guess, full confidence with the new coaching staff and everything, man. We'll see how that does shake out. I will say in that range, man, you didn't bring him up, but Javonte Williams, RB31, he's the clear-cut running back for the Cowboys. I know it's the Eagles.
Healthy.
They are healthy. Javonte's healthy for now. So it is the Eagles, and it's one of these defenses that, again, was so tough on opposing running backs. But they have lost several pieces right now going into the year. They are the cheapest defense in the NFL. Also, when you have all these freaking awesome Georgia Bulldogs on rookie contracts, I understand they should still be okay. But it is funny to me where in Jacksonville, again, we just talked about, like, once we can kind of figure out, or if someone runs away with the backfield battle, that's obviously going to make a huge change in our weekly rankings and everything. I thought we kind of had that same sentiment with the Cowboys. That's why Javonte, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue are all ranked as low as they are. But here we are ahead of week 1. Everyone that seems plugged into the Cowboys is saying Javonte Williams is the clear-cut starting RB. And the entire fantasy community is like, yeah, I'm good anyway, which honestly, I still kind of understand. But what if Javonte Williams doesn't completely suck at football, guys? That could be a real gem.
It could be, but he's at number 31 in your ranks. Jake, I'm looking at the Sharp Stack tool right now, and it has all of the props in it. 4for4.com/Mayo to get yourself in. Get that free week. Put that to good use, all right? The worst rated prop on the board for all of week 1, not just Thursday Night Football, is Javonte Williams over rushing attempts at 10.5.
10.5
Yeah.
is the worst? That's like... I don't know.
That'd be the reasonable one. The yards one might be rough, but
I thought you were maybe going to lean into yards, and then I would definitely
just rushing attempts, and that's even money too, and it's still a horrible value. Even though the under is juiced to -130, much better. At least EV bet at the moment. Doesn't mean it can't win. But that's basically telling you that that is a 70-30 chance of it going under than over, which would frighten me if I was starting him against the Eagles.
And I get it, but I also don't at the same time. Like, I understand from the betting standpoint, I don't get the 10.5 being the better situation because Jaden Blue's been hurt, and Jaden Blue is an explosive timeshare piece. Even if we get to the middle point of the season, he's the most valuable. It's going to be most valuable in a timeshare, similar to Jalen Warren with Najee Harris. Like, he's never going to be the bell cow guy. He's never going to be 18-plus touches a game. Miles Sanders, we know, is garbage, and Miles Sanders proved he was garbage in the preseason. So that's where I go to is like, there's one thing that Cowboys have told us the entire preseason. they haven't put him on the field once, not even with the first team. It's like they have basically said, we know he's the guy. We know he's fine. We're ready to use him in week 1. Like, wouldn't you think that even if practice, they were like, kind of like, he still looks like that shaky running back that might not be 100% healthy. They would have like, let's get him a few snaps with the first team. I'm just reading tea leaves here where the Cowboys have told us this entire time, Williams is the guy. I would bet the over. I know, again, the betting standpoint of it, but I just don't see how he doesn't get 13, 14, maybe even 15 carries just because they're going to try to get some kind of balance. I don't think it'll be very effective, but I could see him just being the guy, like getting 70% of the work in week 1.
Even if that's the case, Ian, if he gets 70% of the work in the Dallas backfield, I still don't know if he gets to that amount of rushing attempts if Philly jumps up 14-0 in 2 drives.
Yeah. And that's the concern. All of a sudden, they're in comeback mode and stuff. But just remember, guys, Rico Dowdle, even with the Cowboys still pretending Ezekiel Elliott was a thing early on last year, I mean, he averaged nearly 15 carries per game across his 16 contests. I don't think any of us confused Rico Dowdle as one of the most special running back talents in the NFL. So, again, it's just a situation where rush attempts, man, on the other side of things, what if the Cowboys can keep things close in the first half? Then all of a sudden, we could be looking at Javonte already, nearing 9 or 10 carries there by the time halftime comes around. So, yards, again, I fully get it and everything. But, if you do want to slow down that Eagles pass rush, a good way to do so is to try to establish the oil run just a little bit. So, again, attempts, I would take it. If you want to say he's get 13 rushes for 25 yards, though, I would see where you're coming from.
I want to throw this out to the chat, and I'm going to throw it to you guys as well. I got 5 names. They're all in the 30s in Ian's half-point PPR rankings right now. So listen very carefully, and you answer with one of them. I don't need you to rank them in order. Just give me the one that you would play as your flex in week 1. Javonte Williams, ETN, Dylon Sampson, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, old Bill, or let's throw in, I don't know, Caleb Johnson. We'll throw those 5 in together. Jake, which one do you like best?
I'm dialing up Dylon Sampson on that one.
And that's the lowest for you, Ian, in your rankings.
I know.
Yeah. Sounds nice, though. Playing that Bengals D. Quinshon Judkins, let's face it, even if he does sign this week, Jake's teammate, Akron, Zach Jackson, was already saying, could be a situation. We don't even see him until October or November. That's not even considering the possibility for a suspension. So, Javonte, floor play. If you are looking for some points, though, you got 45% chance of winning, per sleeper or Yahoo, whoever's doing that for you. I can see the allure for Sampson. Sampson and Ollie Gordon are my picks to be on the cover of the Week 2 waiver wire article. So you're tugging at my heart right there. I wish you would have given me Jalen Warren, Pat, who is my RB30, and I believe the best pick of the group here. But I'll go ahead and lean on the ranks and go with Javonte, but I don't love it.
Yeah. I mean, I like Jalen Warren way better than all these guys. Jalen Warren re-ups on the 2-year deal, Ian. It's looking like, I don't want to say it's his backfield, but I think that he gets green light from week 1 at least to lose it.
Dude, he has been, since he came into the NFL, and I get it, he doesn't exactly face 9-man boxes every time, but he hasn't been in what anyone would call this amazing offensive environment, yet he's still been one of the most efficient running backs in the league. I mean, okay, DK Metcalf, 150 million reasons for the Steelers to feed him. Would we be that shocked if Jalen Warren finishes like second on this team in targets with 80 or something like that? I think it's possible, man. We got old man Rodgers back there. We know he's going to be one to check the ball down. And just, again, as much as Caleb Johnson looked awesome at Iowa and everything, not trying to take that away from him, they re-up Jalen. They've been treating Warren as a starter throughout the entirety of training camp. And don't forget, guys, he had, I think, a hamstring and an ankle problem before September last year. So even if last year in the early going wasn't beautiful, I think there's enough factors going on for Warren where, yeah, man, he fits the situation where honestly he can be almost like, I think, a middle-class man's version of what Austin Eckler was in his prime back in Los Angeles. And now in this weird reality wherein Eckler is becoming the cheaper version of Jalen Warren. So those are the sort of guys that, again, we should be trying to flex though in full PPR, where you look up at the end of the game, it's like, oh yeah, they had an explosive run in there. They caught 5 or 6 passes. Maybe they squeak into the end zone. I mean, that's what flex dreams are made of.
I got a question for you guys, and I know you're smart, so you probably both know this one. Do you know how many receiving touchdowns Jalen Warren has for his career?
0.
No.
Yep, it's 0. Pat got and that's just crazy to think about, just because it's Jalen Warren.
Pittsburgh doesn't score touchdowns.
No, but the thing is,
they have a 2-time MVP.
No, but the thing is, too, is like similar to like some of the other running backs we've talked throughout recent memory and years or whatever. Like he's had a couple receptions in the green and red zone, and he just doesn't even make it to the end zone. That's the interesting part about it, too, is like he gets tackled at the 3 and the 4 and just doesn't make it in. So I know they don't score touchdowns, but it's just a crazy stat. Like you would expect that to come around. Whereas I wanted to jump in on the Jalen Warren thing, too, is because I know that Mike Tomlin usually likes his guys, especially when he's the one that drafts them and sees the appeal there. But everything from this preseason, and before we even had this contract, even before he signed it yesterday, this entire preseason has been like, is Caleb Johnson even the 2 to start the year? Like, I do think he is. I do think he's taking the Najee Harris role, but you might want to sit him in week 1, and you kind of had him in a sit range because everybody's at your disposal, but also be patient. Like, if he comes out in week 1, it's 5 carries for 20 yards, don't go nuts, because I don't think he's going to be involved as people think right out of the gate. When you're getting those workload pieces from Kenneth Gainwell, this could be a full-blown committee to start the year. And Warren, as you guys both said, is the answer for now.
What are we doing with the Washington backfield? I'm worried about Bill. I think that Eckler, if you're going to play one, is the play this week. Because I've been hearing murmurs, Ian, about Chris Rodriguez getting like the first full set of snaps.
It is one of those things where I wish and maybe if you guys know anyone in the chat, that'd be great. Thanks for listening, by the way. But that whole week 3 thing where it was like, okay, well, Bill actually got to sit with the starters, or were they just holding him out because he was dealing with that lingering shoulder injury? I never actually saw a clear, concrete answer out of that. So that would be a nice explanation. I will say I'm Team Bill as the RB1 you should be drafting in Washington. Is it going to take a little bit of a run out for that to fully come to fruition? We'll see. But my only thing with Chris Rodriguez would be the Washington Commanders, again, cut him not once, but twice last year before bringing him back on the practice squad and going. So again, I don't think Brian Robinson, threw a hissy fit and found his way out of town because of Chris Rodriguez. I do think it was the ascension of Bill Krosky-Meyer, someone who, again, constant drumbeat of good news coming out of Washington really ever since training camp got started. So I get going with Eckler, particularly full PPR. And honestly, that's why Eckler was my second most drafted running back of this offseason. Yeah. We don't have to talk about who number 1 was. I think I've already taken my lumps with that one. But again, with Eckler, it's a situation where when Brian Robinson was out last year, he did have multiple games with a 70% plus snap rate. So I've looked at Eckler, honestly, in that same vein as Jaylen Warren. No, he's not going to get 20 plus carries per game, but he wasn't getting that even when he was a fantasy god out here, okay? 12 to 15 carries potentially, and then he's throwing some targets on top of that. Inside of an offense, we expect to put up points. Austin Eckler, again, Jake was telling me where he liked that pick I made in his flex league way back when. It is a situation where Eckler's continuously been priced around these handcuffs, and yeah, I do think he has contingent injury upside, but then even just independent of that, more standalone value than the Tyler Algiers and Trey Bensons of the world.
Worst season of his career, including injuries, and he was still RB 34 in points per game.
Chris Rodriguez?
No, Austin Eckler.
I put a poll into the live chat right now. Smash the like while you're here and participate in the chat. Jake, you're winning. Dylon Sampson currently 40%. Yeah. Everyone else is at I left off Caleb Johnson. You know what?
I checked in on the chat, and you have like almost 300 live watchers. How do you only have? You don't even have 50 likes yet. Smash the like. What are you doing in the chat if you're not smashing the like?
They're here. They're taking down notes, listening to you two.
They're vibing.
It takes 1 second to go click and help you out.
All right,
it's a free country, Jake.
Mowgli in the chat actually has a really good question. I think this feeds on running back strategy a little bit as something we talk about every single year. But look for Will Shipley as the ultimate sleeper if Saquon gets the Madden curse. Now, if Saquon got Madden cursed and was done, I don't think that Will Shipley would be a sleeper any longer. I think people would know, hey, this guy's like a top 10 running back now for the rest of the season. However, what you can do, depending on the league that you play in and the site that you play on. And Jake, I know this works on Yahoo. Does it work on ESPN, the old primetime running back drill?
No, but it's Yahoo, I think, is the only one.
So if you play on Yahoo, Ian, the move is have a rotating spot at the end of your bench and pick up whatever handcuff is the best in that game, if available, because if you do not play them that week, because you won't, because you're picking them up to be a handcuff, if the starter gets hurt, then you just beat waivers and have them on your team. If they do not get hurt, you can drop them for whoever the best handcuff in Chargers Chiefs is. And if they don't get hurt, you can just run that process through. If it happens once throughout the course of the season that you beat waivers on the guy that everyone was going to spend their fab for, it was worth the 3 seconds to go do it.
100%. And look, even if Shipley, obviously it's not, look, some of these situations, if Kenneth Walker gets hurt, we're probably just crossing his name out and putting Zach Charbonnet in there. Like there are a lot of handcuffs like that. Look, I don't think Shipley would be this top 5 running back or anything, but when I did my handcuff tiers last week, man, it was tough to keep him out of the top 10. He did in fact make my top 10 alongside guys like Cam Scatterbo, Brian Robinson, and Trey Benson as well. So I do think A.J. Dillon could be a little bit annoyingly involved on early downs, as much as we want to say, oh, it's A.J. Dillon who cares? The dude was at least good enough or coachable enough to earn 200-plus touches for 3 years with that Packers organization. So either way, though, Shipley, clear-cut number 2 based on everything we saw in the preseason. And honestly, I think we'd be looking at the similar Jaylen Warren, Austin Eckler role inside of one of the best offenses in the league, where we're hopefully getting around 15 combined carries and targets per game from a player who does have some explosive ability. So no more Kenneth Gainwell in Philly to be stealing away those touches. I think it's a good call. I think Shipley basically, once August was going on, became one of the more underrated handcuffs out there. So not expecting any standalone value. We're still going to have to deal with the tush push and Hurts not throwing to his running backs a ton. But hey, Philly offense, man, we're certainly expecting plenty of points there.
Samson wins the poll for week 1 at 34% over everyone else. Shockingly, ETN ended up in number 2. I thought Bill would have ended up number 2. Javonte Williams, Jake dead last.
Nobody wants to start him.
How'd he finish again, though? Dead last? Yeah, he had a great week, though. Thanks.
But if he did the same poll and he said he's going to have the most touches, in my points per touch league that everyone plays in, I get it.
Yeah, still, that's the under.
That's
one of
the
better
new worst place.
What's that? Yeah, we'll see how it ends up going. I think I went back and looked at one of my keeper drafts from last year. I think I took him in like the 3rd round, which is actually like the 7th round because of all the keepers. So I was like, man, that was a bad pick. Guy sucks.
There's still my home auction league by the Cowboys fan. Took him for $12. So
good for him.
That was actually, yeah.
Maybe you'll end up working. Who knows? I'm wrong all the time about this stuff. But at least I have a computer telling me. Maybe my picks can be a little bit better this time around. Coming up after the break, and you smash that like. We're talking receiver ranks, streaming tight ends, and then we're going to make the defense rankings along with streaming quarterbacks. So please stay tuned. For over a century, Johnnie Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereux Go, Johnnie Walker introduces the Johnnie Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnniewalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly. Are you ready for some football? If not, Chubby's is ready to help you with their NFL collection. Whether you're tailgating, grilling, riding the highs and lows from the game from your couch, Chubby's has officially licensed NFL gear to keep you looking like an ultimate fanatic. Now, for me, I just really personally love Chubby's because they come in 3 different lengths, which are perfect for me. I like to show a lot of leg. And I'm not a super tall guy. So if I end up getting a small, they come out below my knees and I look like I'm trying to be Eminem from the late 90s, which is not really the look that I'm going for here. And they have some bold designs for the NFL, but I like my monochromatic shorts when I'm going out. Show off some nice tan, some nice legs, and boom, we are looking good out there. For a limited time, use my exclusive code MAYO for $10 off at chubbyshorts.com/Mayo. Yes, that includes the NFL collection. Let the thighs out and the good times roll. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/PatMayo and get on your way to being your best self. Sometimes we turn to some funny places for support, but not everyone's a therapist. Not everyone is the one. Find your right match with BetterHelp. I've turned to some weird places to solve my life's problems. Have you ever texted like a big buddy group chat? Yeah, that's probably not the best idea. What you need to do is actually talk to a quality therapist. And BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. It's also completely online. You can pause your subscription whenever you need to and switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PatMayo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Welcome back. Reminder to all of you good people to smash the like and join the Survivor Pool. It's on Splash Sports. There's 8,000 spots left. There's $500,000 to the winner. You can sign up for that in the description right now. I'll take your time. Oh, you've probably already signed up because that's how much time it takes. All right, wide receiver rankings, Ian's rankings, which you can find a link to down in the description and on fantasylife.com. Ian, I want to run through these and you tell me before we have to have a discussion about people, because some of these guys just were obviously that we're starting. All right. Yep. Chase is at number 1, Lamb, Jefferson. Even with the wonky hammy, we'll see if he's playing. You're playing him. We know it is a Monday night game though, so have some contingency, I suppose. Collins, Neighbors, Puka, Amon-Ra, Drake London, Brian Thomas, Mike Evans. There's the top 10. A.J. Brown, he's going to play on Thursday night. That shouldn't be a problem. Higgins, Ladd, Tyreek, Xavier Worthy, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, Devontae Adams, Tet McMillan, the big giant head, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin.
Probably about it. That's around where we start getting a little iffy. If you all of a sudden have a situation where it's a Chuba, Kyron versus those guys, I think we can start having a conversation. I hope the T-Mac hamstring is okay. It seemed like he returned to practice. Should get peppered with targets. I've drafted a ton of them, so I should be starting him, but Garrett Wilson, can Justin Fields throw a ball? Any chance that Terry McLaurin's going to be somewhat eased in, given the fact he wasn't there in August? Calvin Ridley going up against the Broncos. Again, that is where we start to get into some situations. Before you guys can say it, I do think Sutton probably deserves to be moved up a couple spots, given some of that uncertainty.
I was going to say, Jake, I would go down even further. Before we start talking about legitimate circle of trust, I'd probably actually move. I like Jacoby Myers. I know that he wants a trade. So no better way to get a trade than play really good and boost your value. So I would have Jacoby Myers up a little bit because Christian Gonzalez it looks like he's going to play, but he's still like 50-50 right now with an injury. I'd move him up. I'd move DJ Moore up just behind Ricky Bullets. And I think that's where I'd call my circle of trust, where I wouldn't start fiddling around with trying to play someone from down the list to get some big upside. I think like the top 28 receivers this week are actually pretty good. There's actually a question in the chat, and I think it's for you, Jake. He's needs to start between Ridley or Coleman this week, but he could pick up Jerry Jeudy. I'd do that.
Why is Jeudy available and Coleman is on the roster? That's an easy 100% swap. And this is from somebody that has concerns that Tillman might have more value with Joe Flacco quarterback than Jeudy does. I don't think that's a guarantee or will happen. I just think there's a world where it could. Yeah, I was going to say in your ranks, I would go all the way to Jameson Williams before I even started thinking about it. Probably because what you spent on Marvin Harrison, like why did you draft him if you're not going to start him? I'm not coming for Ian on that one. I'm just saying specifically
come for
people. No, because where the people took Marvin Harrison was higher than where I would take him. But the point was like where you took him was top 5 rounds. Why are you sitting Marvin Harrison around or for the first week? The only question I would have is I love Pearsall as much as anybody. But is this Juwan Jennings, like, was he just doing the, I'm hurt and I just want a new contract? Because he's already back at practice. And I'm not saying I'm benching Ricky Pearsall in the first week, but there is some question of, okay, now is Jennings going to see more volume? Because the biggest answer that we already had to this question, Ian and I have been this entire offseason, I've said it time and again, we've been George Kittle, and we know that C-Mac and George Kittle are going to be the guys. Well, now you got the question of Pearsall with Jennings back, then I might consider other options. As Ian said, if I have a running back that I could trust more.
Yeah, I do think, again, it was all offseason. We had Pearsall and Jennings way closer. It was the contract/cap stuff, which, again, who knows how much really was weighted on one or the other where things have gotten a bit greater. So given some of the recent, improvements in health from Jennings, and honestly, Darnell Mooney, who I have right next to each other on that wide receiver 4 or 5 borderline, I do think you can, talk about maybe moving them up ahead of guys like at least the Colts wide receivers. Also, Jaden Reed, given what we found out more and more about that Liz Frank injury, he's someone I probably bumped down behind them as well. So, look, with Pearsall, it is a situation where just this 49ers team in general, I know we're going to talk about their DST here in a little bit. I mean, just running so pure during some of these opening weeks of the season. That said, that Seattle defense, man, second half of last year under Mike McDonald did seem to take a step forward. So if you want to move Pearsall down behind, I'd say Jacoby, Matthew Golden just set up really nice early on with all those injuries to the other Packers wide receivers. I do think that would be reasonable. So I got Waddle and Odunze right there on the wide receiver 3 borderline, Mecca 2. That'd be about the lowest. But I'll say this, guys, I feel even better about our kind of pre-draft strategy about just really hammering these wide receivers in the middle round, because the fact that it was just tough to move a Mecca and Deebo Samuel and even Stephon Diggs, who should be out there in week 1 now. I mean, those are guys that couldn't even crack the top 36, and I don't think it's insane that they couldn't. So feeling really good about them. But yeah, man, as much as I hear you, Jake, around Jameson Williams, Marvin Harrison, that's where we draw that line. From wide receiver 28 to wide receiver 40, man, not saying I wouldn't have my disagreements if you flip those guys. But that's one long, nice tier of guys who I think you're going to feel pretty okay about flexing.
Let's go over that entire tier. So Marvin Harrison's at 27. Then there's Ricky Bullets, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore. I like all those guys, really. Zay Flowers. Then you get into Travis Hunter at 32. We'll get more on him in a second. Jacoby Myers, The Shower, Mr. Golden at number 34. Olave, Waddle, Romadunze, Emeka, Debo, Diggs, Jaden Reed. I mean, that even seems high with maybe, I guess Wicks is probably not going to play in this game. We'll see what the injury reports say for Green Bay here against Detroit. Shakir, Coleman. Shakir looks like he's going to be back in. Downs, Pittman, Cooper Kupp. Good Lord. Shaheed, Jawan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, and Marvin Mims. Should Ibuka Jake be higher? Because now no Godwin, no Jalen McMillan as well, because he's going to miss at least 4 games, probably more. He just might backdoor his way into all of the targets here.
Yeah, all of the non-Mike Evans targets, and then
they throw the ball more than 10 times a game.
Will they though in this game?
Yes, I do. You know what? You can have the over of Javonte Williams rushing attempts. I'll take the over on Baker Mayfield 10.5 passing attempts.
I was jumping on top of you thinking you were about to say 10-2 Ibuka. And that's where I was going with this. Yeah, obviously they're going to throw more than 10 times. How much are they going to pass? Like, we're assuming that the Falcons should hopefully make this interesting, but what if it's not? And what if this is a Baker Mayfield throws 25 times? And I'm not saying Ibuka's a bad pick at all. I just think I'm with Ian. I think he's in a fair range. Like, Jalen Waddle, healthy in week 1 versus Ibuka, like, I think that's a fair toss-up. Chris Olave, his brain works right now versus him. I think he's going to have this volume that's guaranteed versus Ibuka that we're hoping. So, look, if you want to put Ibuka higher, I don't have a problem with it, but I'd probably be in a similar spot than he is. I think the bigger one is you kind of paused, and then, like, I do want to talk the Packers, but I know you want to talk Travis Hunter first, so we can do that and then come back.
We can jump to Packers. Like, hey, someone even mentioned in the chat, Ian, I know you like Matthew Golden a ton, but a lot of people feel burned after what happened with Wicks last. He's like, oh, you got to draft Wicks, and he fucking sucked.
He wasn't good, man. It's like that, Moneyball meme or Jonah Hill's like, this guy can separate. He's good after the catch, and, he can do all these things. He just can't catch the football, which is kind of, a problem when you play wide receiver, and that's number 1 on your actual job description. So, hey, should be out there. It sounds like right now Wicks was able to return to practice. I think he's been dealing with that calf injury. Jaden Reed is the one where more and more that we find out about him playing to this list, Frank, that I do start to have problems with. So, honestly, Golden, things just keep going more and more right. Obviously, Christian Watson out for at least the first month of the season. Now, it would be very Romeo Dobbs of Romeo Dobbs when we've been spending all this, past month talking about the other guys, for him to go out there and actually put together some good numbers. So I will say, I like kind of, because everyone says, oh, who's going to be on the cover of next week's waiver wire articles and stuff. And that's a fun conversation, everything. But I like guys to do the Kevin Ogletree Award. Remember that Cowboys wide receiver? Who's going to go off in week 1, get everyone excited, and then not do jack shit for the rest of the season? My pick, Kyle Pitts, for this year, but I do think wide receiver, someone like Romeo Dobbs could have a say.
So that's what I want to talk, because, sorry, Pat, I was going to say is the Reed thing, even if they're all 3 healthy, Reed seems to be the one that they wanted to work more of that slot and maybe come off the field for 2 wide sets, which I like Reed. It's just what they had done when they were briefly all together is that we knew and we got the answer that Golden was the one. But they were using Dobbs and his downfield ability to play outside, to play that role, to go downfield. Golden has big play ability, but Dobbs even more so. And then he had that touchdown upside with those big plays. And I was kind of looking at it similar to the Panthers situation where Legette's playing outside. Coker is going to take over in the middle with the Thielen role, but now that Coker's out, the issue we had with trying to rank Coker and Legette, it was that, okay, Coker probably comes off the field, but he's probably more effective on a per snap basis, but now that's out of the equation. And that's where I go with this. I feel like Reed would be more valuable on a per snap basis than Dobbs, but I feel like Dobbs is just getting disrespected with the addition of the Reed injury. Like, he's going to play through the broken foot, like how long and how effective he's going to be. That's one where I would have them much, much, much closer. I would knock down Reed and I have Dobbs much higher. Dobbs could get you 2, but he could also be that wide receiver 4 that gets you 18.
I'm looking down at the bottom here, and I like to take some gambles. If you have to play a receiver down in this range, I would be looking at Shaheed. I don't know what to do with Jennings. I really need to wait for an injury report on Jennings. But if Jennings is healthy and playing, I'm playing Jennings. Mooney is down there. Mims is down
Mims.
there, and Cedric Tillman is another one I'd like. I'd play all those guys over Keon Coleman and Josh Downs and Cooper Kupp. Like, give me the guy who gets you there on one catch versus the guy that really needs to grind you out some points.
So
I think
my
Keon
top
Coleman can't get you
four.
there on one catch, though. I will say, I mean, he led the Bills in downfield opportunities last year, even while missing a big chunk of the season and having guys like Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins taking away his snaps once he did come back. Again, my whole case for Keon Coleman this year was, man, he's a guy you can buy at a wide receiver price tag who should be considered the front runner to be Josh Allen's primary deep ball and red zone target. So I know the Ravens have made some good improvements in their secondaries, but man, when we got a game like Bills-Ravens, I'm guessing it's the highest total of the week. If not, it's got to be close. Yeah, it's the only game with over a 50.5 point, total right now. The next closest is Cowboys-Eagles at 47.5. I mean, I just want players exposed to that sort of potential high-scoring matchup. So Keon Coleman, man, I think he's someone that can get you there with one play.
Tim P.
I just don't know that it's him.
Tim
Like
P.
that- so that's-
asked the question, Jake, for you.
Okay.
Hollywood Brown, Dobbs, or Keenan Allen? Got to pick one.
Dobbs.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going with
Dobbs.
Dobbs.
Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, although it does sound like Hollywood is optimistic for week one. Meanwhile, Jalen Royals is actually going to be out. So probably get some annoying Juju Smith-Schuster involved. But Hollywood's one of those guys, man, where this time last year, what was he going? It was like a 5th or 6th round pick. And hey, he's going to be a full-time receiver in that Chiefs offense. So given a little bit of the uncertainty, I'll go with Dobbs. But I would not be surprised at all if Hollywood is one of these guys who, again, maybe isn't making the cover of the week 2 waiver wire articles, but he's getting a paragraph.
So Pat, I wanted to bring this up because we keep like the week 1 waivers. So I know we're talking rank show, but so wide receiver, I have Ayuk at 1 just because I'm assuming he's under 60%. I'm assuming that's a lot of leagues that might not have IR spots, but we keep talking about these names. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Tillman, Mooney, Mims, Palmer. I don't know that it's necessarily Keon Coleman, although I would give him the odds. I just think there's a world where all of a sudden it's Palmer and not Coleman because Coleman hasn't taken a step forward. Dobbs, Leggett. Like, those are the guys. Like, these are all the ones that we're talking about who could be on week 2. Well, like, they come out with big games, and clearly the number 2s on their team. These are all potential wide receiver 4s or better. And to your point about Hollywood Brown, I do have him at 14, and my exact point was, if he goes off in week 1, managers are going to stupidly go crazy. You bring up the whole situation with the Cowboys and replaying that one. At this point of his career, that would be Hollywood Brown. Like, oh my God, he goes off in week 1 and doesn't do jack diddly for the rest of the year, like Ian said.
I like Calvin. I like Calvin Ridley a lot. You have him at number 21. I think I just don't want to start him this week. I think if there's an article to be written next week, Ian, it's trade for Calvin Ridley after he basically posts zeros this week.
100%.
Yeah, and honestly, even like 21, as I was starting to go through some of my start sits on the treadmill yesterday, I might have to bump him down a little bit. As much as he's been one of my guys, it's just, again, everything I basically said about Tony Pollard also applies to Calvin Ridley. He's going to have the volume, but if there was a matchup just to be worried about the volume not being enough, I do think it would be this one. But over on the other sideline, Jake, I know you mentioned Marvin Mims. It sounds like he's going to be okay with that groin issue, but I know he got most of the press for everything going on in the preseason. He deserved to, but I will say, if Pat Bryant is going to come out and take someone's job in that starting trio, I think it's going to be more so Marvin Mims. Troy Franklin, guys, someone who is under 2% owned in these leagues. I have been happy to get him on the bench in some of these 14-team, 2 or 3 flex madness, spots that I'm in, because that is a guy where last year he was honestly their primary deep ball threat. Just was a situation where he and Bo Nix didn't hook up on one of them until it was the wild card round. So as much as, again, there's been a nice drumbeat for several guys out of Denver, it does seem like Franklin's in 3 wide receiver sets. Sean Payton's been saying he took a big step forward, and this dude is literally free even in the deepest of leagues, it seems like. So deep waiver wire ad, man. Give me some Troy Franklin.
I will say, I do have Pat Bryant at 28, 1 spot behind your guy's boy, Darius Slayton.
Hey.
Can he break the Slayton this week? We shall see. We do need to have a Travis Hunter conversation, though. Before I ask, I haven't signed up for every single fantasy site. Does he get credit for, like, if he has a pick 6 in a game, does he get credit for that fantasy-wise anywhere?
You would have to choose it.
That's lame. He doesn't get the touchdown?
He should get the touchdown.
He gets the touchdown, but like if you get like the actual IDP points, there are some sites where you can give him, he gets the interception points too. And then there's some sites, if you play, it's site dependent, Pat. So if you do the IDP, you can get the offensive numbers too.
Okay, well, listen, we're not talking like Virgin Fest IDP here, all right? We're talking like normal fantasy leagues for people playing regular fantasy football.
Then the settings should be, yes, if he scores a touchdown, it's a touchdown.
Okay. That's what I need to know. So he's sort of like Ohtani in that way. So does that ever boost it? Like we don't know how much he's going to actually play on the defensive side of the ball, but would that give him like a weekly bump up versus like maybe call it a tie break versus other people around him on a week-to-week basis?
What's the most optimistic number of pick sixes we could write out? Two? Like, that'd be amazing.
I was gonna say, it was like this is Devin Hester and Cribbs and like, okay, but no, but
I look at someone like Shaheed. Like if I like Shaheed anyway, but knowing that he returns punts, and he had one game last year with no catches and a punt return touchdown, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Before he ended up getting hurt for the season. But if you just put these guys, like if I like Shaheed, let's say if I'm between Shaheed and Stefan Diggs, which I'm not, don't play Stefan Diggs. But let's say that was a real case for me. I would just play Shaheed. He has extra opportunities to touch the ball.
Yeah, tie break. That's it. Just a tie break.
Sure.
Okay. So number 32 for Travis Hunter, Ian. Jake, where do you think you would have him? Because I have no clue what to do with him.
So I would put him probably I would actually play Ibuka in front of him because I know what Ibuka is going to be in week one. I would have him kind of in that same conversation with, and like this whole cluster, let me make that clear in the fact that Ian brought that point up and that this is a cluster. If I'm saying that I have Hunter at 38, it's not that like he's dumb and I'm smart. It's just, I was going to bring up the fact I would have him in that conversation of wide receiver 3s, 4s where Deebo Samuel, I might only get a game where he sees 3 targets just because the Commanders didn't utilize him, but it could be a game where he also got 7 touches, including 2 runs, and all of a sudden he's wide receiver 20 for the week. And I think that's the conversation you have to have. If you're looking at a team and you're like, hey, my wide receiver 2 and 3 are already dice rolls, and you want to just go full gamble mode, like I feel like Travis Hunter is the play. But if you're just like, hey, I got a good lineup, and whatever it might be at wide receiver 4, maybe you want to go with a running back tiebreaker instead, I can understand that as well.
Let's pick one guy each outside of Ian's top 50 in rankings that if you had to start him, you would, and then we'll do the same thing with top 70. I'm going to go with Cedric Tillman because I'm playing him anyway outside of Ian's top 50. Jake, who would you go with?
I was going to say Cedric Tillman, so now I have to keep looking. I know. Well, ask Ian who's the one that we take the flyer because now I'm going to look more. I'll give you one. I'll drop all the way down to 73. I'll take a deep flyer on Roman Wilson that he's the number 2 for the Steelers.
Outside top 50, I'll go ahead and say Troy Franklin. We're just hyping him up a little bit. Again, someone who can give you that 60-yard touchdown. And just Sean Payton has a handful of those plays per game that he will, dial up and scheme well. And I do think Franklin is going to be the guy that they are going to a lot. Outside the top 70, I'll say the guy one spot ahead of Roman Wilson. Low-key got a little bit of money this offseason. Tutu Atwell. We have a healthy Matthew Stafford. Yes, he's not going to be getting more than 4 or 5 targets per game, but it does seem like McVay has kind of a way to use him. He actually has him in motion a lot of times at the snap. Helps, a guy who weighs 150 pounds avoid some of those press coverages. And again, it has been a situation where we do see Stafford look deep for Tutu fairly often. So got that 1-year, $10 million deal. Again, he's not taking targets away from Puka or Devontae Adams. But when you are thinking about who they are going to be designing these deep shots for, I think Troy Franklin and Tutu Atwell are those guys in offenses that we like.
Speaking of deep shots, sorry, I was going to go back to Hunter. If he is banged up throughout practice this entire week, Diami Brown.
I got him in my 32-team league, 10th round. Let's go.
I will take a flyer on actually Kevontae Turpin against the Eagles on Thursday night.
I like that. I
expect them to get down by a ton, and then you just let the fastest man on the field score garbage time touchdowns.
They use him some running back too. There is I've had a few just best ball teams where I've tacked on Kevontae on like a DAC stack in round 18 because there is a scenario, even though he's another one of these guys who weighs 150 pounds. So I don't know if he's ever gonna get a full-time role, but we could look up in week 8. And it's like the Cowboys have found a way to get him, 7-ish combined carries and targets per game. And that dude can make a lot out of him.
We'll probably talk about this on the Best Bet show later in the week or even on the Monday show. We do it next Monday morning. But Zacchaeus' first touchdown on Monday Night Football for the Bears, just lock that in. And then Mac Hollins, Jake, for the Patriots. That guy loves touchdowns.
Especially if he shows up barefoot.
Whether he does or not, it's just that's going to be Drake May's guy in the end zone, just like he was Josh Allen's guy in the end zone last season. Very quickly on tight ends, we don't need to spend too much time talking about it unless you do need to have a streamer for week 1. If you drafted George Kittle, who's ranked number 1 in the rankings, well, you're going to play George Kittle. You're playing Kittle, McBride, Bowers, Andrews, Hawkinson, Njoku, Laporta, Kelsey, Tyler Warren. Hell, Jake, I would say that Evan Ingram and Tucker Kraft are probably even both locked into starts as number 1 based just simply where you drafted them.
I would agree with that. I actually thought I would have Loveland and Ferguson flip just because we're expecting the Cowboys to have to pass a ton, and then we know Ferguson's going to be involved. It's the limited ceiling, but he's kind of in that Goddard conversation.
Ian, would you say that like your cutoff would be Tucker Kraft of like, hey, you're starting those 11 guys, then you know what? We can talk through the other ones.
Yeah, because Loveland, there's just enough concern that Cole Kmet's going to make this closer to 50-50, a la kind of what we've seen from Kincaid and Dawson Knox and Buffalo over these last 2 years, where, again, Loveland's clearly going to be the number one tight end in Chicago. But, again, that could be enough of a difference between 5 versus, 7 or 8 targets per game. So that would be the line. I'm with Jake on. I can see, again, the allure of going Ferguson there. Guys, depending on what happens with Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts could be the number 2 pass game option in Atlanta. I know, but this dude still isn't old enough to rent an RV in most parts of continental America, guys. So again, he did torch the Buccaneers in 2 matchups last year. I'm just saying, Kevin Ogletree Award. It would be the most Kyle Pitts thing ever for him to ball out in week 1, get everyone back in. Just when I thought it was out, Kyle Pitts pulls me back in, and then he busts. So again, I think it'd be very funny and on brand for Kyle Pitts for 1 week only to look a lot like, a good version of Kyle Pitts.
It may lead to a big bust, but here's, Jake, what I want you to do. I want you to sit on your hand for 30 seconds and then get the stranger in your lineup, Brenton Strange.
Wow. That was, I was wondering where the hell that was going. Like Brenton Strange, it could have the appeal of Jake Ferguson, but I think that's the thing. Evan Ingram, like you need the volume, assuming the Hunter situation is not clear, they don't go to Diami Brown. And yeah, I just think that Strange, Ferguson, Goddard, that's like cool if you just want to make sure you get a back end tight end 1. I was a little surprised that Hunter Henry was all the way down at 24. With this, just because Stephon Diggs is a question mark. We're talking about Mac Hollins. Kyle Williams isn't a thing yet. There's just a lot of questions. And the one consistent thing that we saw from Drake May last year was he's going to Hunter Henry and he relies on Hunter Henry. Maybe that doesn't result in much, but I think that you have a matchup this week where if you're looking for who the top 3 option for Drake May, at least in week 1 is, while he has all these questions, it's Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a spiteful rank. I'm not going to lie. Hunter Henry's one of these guys I've just gotten pissed off at throughout this offseason researching it. You're telling, like, we were sitting here last year and going, hey, fans, like, we get told he's going to lead the Patriots in targets. This dude got 97 targets last year, and he can't give me more than a tight end 16 finish. This dude has been in the league since 2016. He's never got 700 yards in a season. Guys like Cole Kmet have done that, man. So, again, it could look bad, and this week against the Raiders would be the matchup to do it. But I don't know, man. I just don't think at this point in his career, Hunter Henry is. He's a catch and fall down tight end. Maybe you get lucky with a touchdown. But, Patriots offense, I'm not exactly expecting fireworks from. So, if you had to go outside of the top 20, man, Mike Gesicki would be that guy I want to be looking at. Him and Jawan Johnson have been my 2 favorite late-round tight ends. Jawan, to his credit, we'll see. But no Foster Moreau, no Taysom Hill. I mean, Olave is going to be the one. But Mike Gesicki, guys, he would be the one that I think we could be coming back to. There's a chance that he's basically the starting big slot in Cincinnati, okay? They paid him this offseason. He's missed some time with a hamstring and earlier training camp. Seems like he is back on the mend and going to be out there. If you just knew nothing else, like imagine if we had a rookie tight end coming in, projected to be Joe Burrow's number 3 target. That's what Mike Gesicki is, but we actually know he's a good pass catcher. Yet everyone's just ignoring him because he was misused for a few years in New England and Miami.
I would say, just going in order here, if I'm going to take a flyer on one of these guys, I'd try to target someone who might be the 2/3 option in an offense this week where I do think that teams are going to pass. Gesicki would be number 1 on that list.
Yeah.
Because Otten's inside the top 20, but we're losing options for Tampa Bay. Someone has to catch passes eventually. So I would probably bump him up a little bit, but it'd be Gesicki, Chig, and Jatavion Sanders, man. Maybe Hunter Renfrow, Jake, isn't the answer. Maybe it's Sanders.
Maybe that is the answer, but you guys are both missing one of the biggest ones. There's no way Mason Taylor should be 28th. There's a real chance he's the number 2 option for Justin Fields in week 1.
That's great. So
that's
0
rich
points
coming from you. Rich coming from you, Jake. After all the Garrett Wilson slander, now you want to have up Mason Taylor?
We talk about Justin Fields' good seasons all the time, and the one thing he consistently did was throw to the tight end, especially in the red zone. Cole Kmet's best touchdown season came with Justin Fields. And yet Mason Taylor's all the way down there. I will take a flyer on Mason Taylor.
1-word answer. Or actually, 2-word answer for you guys because it's a pick 2. This one comes from Justin. Pick between Okongwu, Kincaid, and Johnson. I'm guessing Theo Johnson. Ian.
Kincaid.
You need 2.
Kincaid and Johnson.
Kincaid. Sorry, who's the other one?
Chig.
Chig. Yeah, I have Chig ranked higher, so
I'd go Chig and Theo. I wouldn't play
I'm
Kincaid.
going Chig and Kincaid.
Kincaid's touchdown or bust.
Quarterbacks. Cut me off, Ian, when we're out of must-start territory for week 1. Josh Allen is number 1. He's playing against Lamar Jackson, who's number 2. Hurts, Daniels, Burrow, Mahomes, Bonix, Kyler Murray against the Nollan Saints, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Drake May, Justin Fields. Dak
I mean, must start.
Throw
It's hard
Dak
to
into
go
that mix.
past 12.
You're going to want to play Dak. I don't know how many touchdowns he throws for, but he's throwing the ball 50 times.
Yeah, honestly, though, I will say, if I hear you and I agree with you, but we're also seeing, again, this elongated kind of second tier of guys. I honestly think after Bo Nix, if you wanted to say Dak Prescott deserves to be going QB7 ahead of Kyler Murray and Baker, okay, I think there's an argument to be made there. Again, I'm kind of leaning on the legs of Kyler here, and I just think Baker in a potential shootout against the Falcons, or at least I'm not having a good defense, deserves the benefit of the doubt. But Goff is one of these guys where he's getting the biggest jump up, in terms of week 1 versus the rankings. We can feel better about his floor than necessarily his ceiling. But that said, man, we maybe haven't been giving Goff enough credit. He did go freaking crazy in the fantasy playoffs last year. I know won a lot of people a lot of money. It is a situation where guys like Caleb Williams against the Vikings, Justin Fields against the Steelers. Those are two that I thought I would have higher up in the ranks, but the matchups were enough for me to push them down. So, yeah, I'd say Dak's right there. Trevor Lawrence, though, you can make an argument that if there was a week to start him, it's probably against the Panthers. So I would say after T-Law in particular, that's when I start having real concerns.
Of note, towards the end of Jared Goff's season, he played all of those games indoors. Now, this one is outdoors.
No,
it should be somewhat
he was in
nicer.
Chicago throwing for 300 plus and 3. That's such a freaking outdated thing where he only has a few games anyway. And when how many of those games were with the bad version of the Lions? It's like a 9-game sample, and most quarterbacks are better indoors anyway. I'm so tired of that point.
I was looking at it the other way. He actually played 2 games outdoors towards the end of the season. I was looking at the beginning of the season. So that's my bad. Looking at the stats
I was
the wrong
getting hyped up.
Jake, I would play Flacco over like all these guys.
I would go Flacco.
I would play Flacco over Kyler Murray.
What?
Yeah.
If you want to go for the ceiling, I will say that.
If I just want to win, I'm trying to win my matchup. I'm going to play the better quarterback.
Kyler can rush for a 50-yard touchdown.
I'm not
When was the
playing
last time
Flacco.
Kyler rushed for a 50-yard touchdown?
I think he had like 2 last year.
2 50-yard touchdowns?
He was at least 40. He was throwing his number 1 up like Dion from like 30 yards out. It's crazy. I know he doesn't run a ton, but he was literally averaging like 7 yards per carry last year.
How many rushing touchdowns did he have last year? 1, 2. He had 5 last year. I mean, I'm just going to take the guy against the bad defense who's going to be bombing it all game.
Long of 50 for the record.
Yeah, it was. You're right. Yeah. Long of 59.
I could go for
50-yard
Flacco.
touchdown.
As high as right by Goff, because it's all arm, and it's going to be, can he be top 10 on his arm, or is he going to be an average day with 1 passing touchdown and finish down by QB 20? And that's where I think it comes down to play. He has 0 rushing upside to offset that. He should bomb it all day. It should be against the Bengals. It should be aggressive. And as Ian's brought up before, last 17 starts in the NFL, 4,400 passing yards. He's going to keep bombing it, so I'm with you, but I think he falls into the conversation of a Goff. It has to all be with his arms, so I would not rank him as high as 6 or 7.
No, I said, it's 7. No, 8.
7. I wouldn't go that far.
8. I like him better than Baker. I like him better than Kyler. Goff, you could probably, it's a harder matchup. It's a harder matchup for Goff. I just like the game environment with, it's going to be good weather in September, playing a terrible defense versus an offense that's probably even going to score points on your good defense. So it seems like a great situation, at least I think in my mind.
I get it. We want to play guys against Cincinnati
and run the ball 40
all
times.
season long. Yeah, and also, I mean, it's got to be a short-ish leash. And I mean, they're going to be calling for those, rookies the second that things do go a little south. That is the one thing with Flacco. He's put up the yards, but it has been Jameis-esque where a lot of those are, kind of trailing. Also,
there is no way.
Count, by the way,
I was going to say, there's no way Gabriel or Sanders is starting before the middle part of the season, though.
Really?
Without injury? There's no way they make.
I mean, if the Browns are 0-4, I think the calls are going to be pretty freaking.
They will be, but I mean,
you know what? I like Flacco more than I like Mahomes this week too. I'm dead serious.
I know you are.
You have a pathway, man.
I think Pat was sitting on his hand for 5 minutes before he clicked that one.
Yeah, I busted right out with some hot takes here. But yeah, I mean, just he's the one guy from the bottom here. And if I was taking a flyer, I'd play Tua.
For the record, in my rankings article, you guys can see me explain my thoughts a little bit over at fantasylife.com. I did give Flacco a shout out saying that, he certainly deserves to have, streamer consideration. As you pointed out, Pat, I would just think in more leagues than not, you got your quarterback, likely one of these top 16 guys, and you are not going to be leading down to the dumpster for Mr. Joe Flacco. But hey, I know I tacked him on in a few super flex leagues as my QB3. So if you were in a situation where, you got kind of left in the dust there on your QB2, I can see leaning for Mr. Joe Cool.
Defenses. Before we get out of here, we know who the defenses you need to start are. They're going to be the Broncos. The Commanders look pretty good. The Eagles look fantastic. The Vikings against the Bears. The Cardinals, just teams with big spreads. Who are some sleeper defenses that you guys really like this week? Because I think we all like the 49ers, and now the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, it was the 49ers easy on that one.
To me, it was like this whole offseason trying to find those defenses that had a mix of being hopefully not too shitty in real life and just having a great opening schedule. 49ers, Patriots, and Cardinals. And I just thought the 49ers were going to be the one that was more unanimously owned. Because I'm waiting until the last 2 rounds to draft my defense. But man, I looked at it last night, only 16.4% on ESPN, 32% on Yahoo. I just think the 49ers, out of those 3, they have the better chance of being a really good real life team. Their win totals at 10.5. We have prime Fred Warner, prime Nick Bosa. And I know it takes 11 guys, not 2, to make up a defense, but that's a decent start, particularly when we do get Robert Saleh back, has had a top 8 defense in EPA per play 4 of the last 6 seasons. And, what was the first takeaway we have when the schedules came out? Good God, this is going to be easy for the 49ers. And it is, man. We got Darnold, we got Spencer Rattler, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford's back, Baker, Penix, Stroud, the Giants. So, again, I'm not saying those are all easy cake matchups. The Buccaneers can score points, but Baker's also led the NFL interceptions these last 2 years. I look at Stafford with the back, guys like Penix and Stroud behind those offensive lines. I swear, guys, if the NFC West outside the 49ers isn't very good this year, almost every single game the Niners have is going to be either against a bad offense or at least a group with a questionable line. So, man, final 3 weeks, guys, for the playoffs. Titans, Colts, and Bears are what the 49ers are going to get there down the stretch. Teams that, again, are bad and probably quitting on the year. So literally, if you get San Fran, I don't think you have to potentially worry about the DST the entire season until week 14 when you got Philip by.
I like to play this week by week, Jake, but if I'm just going to take a gamble on someone who no one is playing this week, and maybe this is a better DFS play rather than your season-long league, but I can see the Raiders pressuring Drake May a ton because I do not believe the Patriots' offensive line was fixed.
That's a fair one. They're further down the list after like Commanders, Jets, Bears.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I actually think the defense on either side of that one is interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
the Giants. I feel like they'd be the low-owned group, and they could sack Daniels 6 times.
Yeah, it just feels like Daniels is more elusive than that, though. He turns
That's
those
what
sacks.
I say. My fear is that if they don't get to him, that secondary is just going to get torched.
Well,
I get it.
I made the point on the spread show that if you see that game is like somewhat close midway through the second quarter, just bet on the Giants to win because it feels like the Commanders are going to run away with it and beat them by 40, or it's going to be one of these tight games where you're just sitting there the entire time. So that Giants defense would make them live in that game, but you have to deal with the consequences the other way.
Oh yeah, I don't think that team's good at all, but that's one I would not take them in Survivor. The Commanders, I'm terrified of those.
Yeah.
And don't take the Cardinals.
Sign up for Survivor.
What's that?
You said
I said sign up for Survivor, by the way.
Yeah, it's in the description right now. Broncos are like the play, right?
Yeah, I think the Broncos. I was on your Eagles pick even before that, just because they're at home against the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys are garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I have 5 entries. I use the Eagles for all 5 of them because if I lose, I'll just put in 5 more.
Why did you say don't pick the Cardinals? Because
you said that your wife picked them, so you always go against your wife with this stuff.
Sorry, Nicole.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Thank you for joining us live. We're going to try to be live every single week at this time, Tuesdays at 10:45 a.m. Eastern time. We'll schedule more. There's a lot to talk about in week 1. We'll schedule more time for your start-sit questions going forward. You can always hit up Jake at AllInKid if you have more questions, and check out all of his work on theathletic.com. You can find that link down in the description of this show. Ian, all your ranks are live right now at Fantasy Life, and that link is in the description. Hit him with the code.
Ian.
Code Ian. It's pretty good. Pretty easy one to remember. I think you should use code Mayo at 4for4. Get the Sharp Stack app. It is completely free for the first week. You get a 7-day trial. Put it to good use. If you don't like it, throw it back. But if you win some Mondays, then say, hey, thanks, Pat, for giving me code Mayo for that free week and 25% off. All right? If you want to see my rankings, they will come out later in the week in my newsletter. Completely free to join. That link is down in the description right now, or just get it on Substack Mayo Media, okay? Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. Smash a like on the way out, and I will see you next time.